Okay. So should we start? Okay.
If you ever need me, I'll tell you, okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Samo Kavcic. I will be presenting what is monetary separation of the real and the financial exchange circles. My experience is from different fields because I work in industry and then 20 years as a consultant for a big IT company, and I had opportunity to visit a lot of businesses. So I draw all my theory and knowledge from that, but also I read a lot of theory. Okay, so to continue. Okay, let me first introduce what is Komoko Monetary System, or shorter KMS, which was first introduced in the 2016 summer issue of the International Journal of Community Currency Research. It's basically a version of a mutual credit system with some special features, but it shares with mutual credit its basic features. Of course, it has some specialities. First of all, it is declared as compliant with the Marxian CIMSC requirement. Marx, in his Capital 1, stated that the source of exploitation lies in the perverted way that capitalists do their business. Instead of exchanging commodities for money to produce more commodities, they exchange money for commodities to produce more money. And KMS is designed to prevent such behavior. It's designed to prevent accumulation. It has some other features as well. So first, in comparison to MCS systems, it mandates businesses to submit their forecasts, and based on that forecast, usually every business do forecasts. That's the primary thing you do when you do business. And so you submit your forecast, and based on that forecast, businesses are granted credit levels or overdraft limits, with other words. And in addition to that, businesses are mandated to clear their accounts periodically. So no matter either they are positive or negative, they are mandated. For households, the proposition is that the deposits, the household deposit should be aging, and after a grace period, they should be facing progressive demarriage, because this is like Silvio Gesel's money for households. So KMS perceives the present-day economy as two conjoined twins. One on the left is representing the real circulation, which is equated with the production and exchange of new goods and services. And the other on the right is representing the financial circulation, which is equated with the exchange of capital goods and durable and capital goods, including stock. So the guy on the left is hardworking, industrious, tidy, organized, and the guy on the right is hustler, gambler, and a drunk. So whenever the guy on the right has a wild night, drinking, gambling, smoking pot, the guy on the left can't work or think, because unfortunately their blood systems are fused. Translated, both circulations are using the same currency. KMS is designed as a complementary currency in the true mathematical sense of the word, meaning that it is anticipating one other currency to take care of the financial circulation, of the majority of financial circulation, and KMS is supposed to take care of the real circulation. The 2016 paper proposed a thorough rule-based barrier between the two circulations. It practically forbid businesses to trade old goods, capital goods, and durable goods with using Komoko, with some exceptions. But my later work then revealed that this is probably too cumbersome to businesses and eventually easy to evade. And of course, the financial transactions are necessary for a developed economy, because businesses must join forces for the investment. So my later work revealed also that this barrier, the rule-based barrier between the two currencies, is basically unnecessary. But in order to understand why it is unnecessary, I need to explain what is called the extermination of financial financial hoarding. Let me explain this. In KMS, financial hoarding is prohibited. Humans tend to hoard money. This is a deeply rooted animalistic instinct, and this is proven by this slide. It's not seen very good, but it represents a squirrel's saving account deposited in a Honda Civic car and discovered by a mechanic. In the past, humans save money by burying pots with coins in the ground, and later by stashing banknotes in the mattresses. But what we face today is called financial hoarding. Why? Because the 97% of all money is at the bank already. So when there is a general tendency to thrift, when the money is already in the bank and it's made available to the industry and to the rest of the for the investment. But when there is general tendency to thrift, then people save more and they consume less. And okay, this was explained by Keynes. And people save more, spend less, demand is falling, but in that situation, businessmen are reluctant to invest. So the extra money, and this leads to depression, because the extra money that is being saved is actually lost. It's like sowing seed in a barren ground. And we experience this with every crisis, where the investors lose half of their money and the depositors are only saved by the state with the taxpayer money. So, but this is not what is bad in the financial hoarding. It gets more. Let me present you with two man-made oscillating devices. On the top, we have a scheme of a radio. The two essential elements of the radio are the coil on this side and the capacitor. So when electrons are induced in the coil, they travel to one side of the capacitor where they build up charge, and then they are pushed by their own charge through the coil to the other side of the capacitor where they build charge, and they are again pushed through the coils to the other side of the capacitor. That's how the radio operates. It oscillates all the time. And now I would like to present you with another man-made oscillating device. It's called fractional reserve banking, or FRB shortly. Steve Keen, in his book Debunking Economics, and by the way, I recommend his book to everybody warmly, he described how he tried to build a model of economy, preferably a computer one, to simulate the situation, because he was not satisfied with the models that were proposed by neoclassical economists, who used basically two types of agents in their models, businesses and households. And they modeled the economy fundamentally as barter system. They never considered money to have any special role. And their models predicted stable economy. They were never able to predict crisis. So Steve Keen changed this. He introduced banks in the model, banks as repositories and creators of money, which in fact how this FRB system is working. And immediately after doing that, the model started to behave very much like reality. It started to produce boom and bust cycles. So this is one of the graphs that is from his book. He's showing the results with three relevant economic variables. And what we can see, what Steve Keen found out, that there is no equilibrium value. It is veering all the time, it is cycling, and you see it's a very nice graph. Unless you are laid off, because unfortunately the employment curve made a slight turn from 95 to 85%, and you are laid off. So, unfortunately, this is not the only bad thing related to the financial hoarding. In addition to that, Steve Keen find out that these models are not only cycling all the time, but they are also unpredictable because they display what is called the butterfly effect. Very small changes in the initial parameters throw the result in totally different direction. So it's not bad only for workers and employees who get fired, but also for businessmen, because it's very hard to predict future in such an environment. And instead of honest businessmen, speculators, and Ponzi scheme investors take over the economy, unfortunately. Okay. So to sum up about this financial hoarding, it is accumulation, and accumulation is dangerous. It causes boom and bust cycles, it causes depression, and it causes unpredictability. So nowadays governments can only target one single economic variable, and that is inflation, which is kept at 2%. The rest of the relevant economic variables are left to chance, unfortunately. There is one other issue which is related to the extermination of financial hoarding, and this is the speculation. Okay, sorry, this was a bit too fast. Okay, seems that, no. I've lost a lot of slides, obviously. It doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah, maybe I was too quick. Okay, so what does this do with KMS? Sorry. What does this do? Luckily, nothing, because KMS is stable. KMS is designed not to support accumulation. Businesses are mandated to clear their accounts periodically, and household deposits are aging and then are demarried progressively. And banks are only intermediaries of savings, not the repositories. So when there is a general tendency to thrift, the excess savings that are not immediately invested by the industry are rejected, and households are left with them, so they must consume. They must consume. Maybe they buy something else, but they must consume, otherwise they lose value. So in a way, this system behaves like it was predicted by the neoclassical economists, who modeled the economy basically with businesses and households. It is intrinsically stable. Okay, that's about KMS. One more thing, there is a catch, of course. The financial hoarding is the flip side of the store of value function of money. What does this tell us? It tells us that when we want to support real circulation, so the real economy that is producing new value, then we must forget about the money as defined by economists to have three functions, but some say four. So unit of account, medium of exchange, and store of value. Store of value should be left to some other currency, because the currency that is supporting real circulation should not support store of value. That's the bottom line. Okay, now about, as I said, about speculation, because it is related to financial hoarding in KMS. There is something fishy in speculation, like these two jugglers, because KMS prohibits speculation. There are some challenges related to prohibition of speculation. Historically, in the market economy, speculation, there were some tries to deter speculation, never to prohibit it. It was prohibited in the ex-communist economies, but we were not too satisfied with them. To continue. Speculation, it is hard to draw a line between what is a beneficial financial transaction and what is speculation. And also, it is hard to define what is damaging in speculation. Even Keynes was not able to draw a clear line between damaging part of speculation and not. So I tried to do that. In order to explain what is damaging in speculation, I will come back once again to Karl Marx, because he introduced what is a turnover period. If you watch a business, every business has a balance curve, which is much like a breathing or heartbeat of a human being. Well, that can be Okay. What we can see is that, let's say that this is firm A is a hairdresser business, and they are cashing in for haircuts all the time. So, and then eventually they pay some costs. And if they are smart, they distribute this payment of costs through the cycle. So they pay for rent, for materials, and then they pay wages. And there is a residual accumulation that remains after that, and this cycle repeats. That's typical of every business. Some businesses have, are blacking businesses as called because they collect money before they spend it, and some businesses are reading accounts because in KMS they would be granted, let's say this is a construction business, it would be granted an overdraft through a year because he would be paying for subcontractors, for materials, for wages, and at the end he would cash in because they would sell the building. And that's the cycle. In KMS, there is a mandatory clearing period, and this is the period in which every business that has shorter than the mandatory clearing period has to clear. The businesses that have longer period can clear according to their natural period. Let's say, for instance, a shipyard needs a year to build a ship, and then another ship, and another, and so on. So, so this is the turnover cycle or turnover period, okay? Turnover period. This is this period or this period. And now to the definition of speculation. So in KMS, speculation is defined as doing financial transactions in both ways within one business turnover cycle. So meaning investing and divesting within the same turnover cycle. That's the definition of speculation, and this is prohibited in KMS. Why? Okay, again, to the natural, this would be a natural balance curve of a business, because after each cycle, the business would try to accumulate some more money to save, or just don't know what to do with it. But in KMS, accumulation is prohibited. So if this guy would want to accumulate, he should exchange this for euro, or for gold, or for stock, for whatever, but not Komoko. Komoko does not let to accumulate. So in Komoko system, he would need to clear. With every cycle, this business would need to clear. That's as simple as that. However, of course, if there is a businessmen are smart and inventive. So a guy with a lot of resources could establish a firm B in addition to firm E, and make it to have a turnover cycle a bit shifted. So whenever he's due to clear, instead of buying euro or, yeah, is that a question?
What do you mean exactly?
It means it must bring the balance to zero.
What does he do with the...
Buy euro.
Okay.
Buy euro, for instance. Okay, in the exchange. So, so when he's about to clear, he would lend the missing, so the residuant amount to firm B, and immediately after clearing, the firm B would pay back this amount, and so this accumulation would still be happening. But this is not possible because firm B would be doing investing and divesting transactions in its same cycle. It's not possible. So the firm that gets financial transaction must spend it in the real. So for the wages, for the materials, for the subcontractors, and so on. It is possible that a similar operation would be done with larger businesses, where they would split up in order to reciprocally invoice each other for goods and services, even because they could emulate this. This is theoretically possible. It is maybe a bit cumbersome. But it is against the values of KMS, and it is of course easily traceable. But if that would spread, that behavior would spread, then the KMS could issue something like a demarrage that would be inversely proportional to the value added in the total revenues, which means that if there is a business like a shell business which only which has a very little add-on value and a lot of subcontractors, those businesses would be then pushed to expedite the payments to subcontractors, because otherwise they would be demarched more than a normal business that has a lot of add-on value. So the demarriage would not hurt those guys. Okay, so yeah, I think before I conclude, I would like to say that the lesson that I would the message that I would like to pass to you is that whenever you, because I've seen the discussion about federation of local currencies and so on, so this will grow and surely should grow, but keep in mind that you should make a line between what is a real transaction, what is the currency that supports the real transactions, and what is the currency that supports financial transactions, and make sure that the currency that supports real transactions does not store value. That's my message. Okay, so thank you.
So, questions? We have 10 minutes, almost 10 minutes. So, questions, please.
Does I understand it right? If you are in the end of your period after the end of the forecast, so in the end of the year or whatever, you in Komoko, everything will be set to zero?
No, you must make sure that you set it to zero. Otherwise, you are demarried or you pay some fee.
Not by the system. You have to do it by yourselves. How you can make it to zero?
You buy the euro. You lend to somebody. You can do whatever with your money.
But you have to get it off.
You must get rid of Komoko, because this is the only way to prevent accumulation. Because I've showed you that that this is radio then.
Yeah. Okay.
Immediately. Okay.
I agree that clearing house system, system is like time bank. Time bank is the model, the most adequate model, because they have no currency.
No money.
It has no money. Currency only accounting function.
Yeah.
But there is a problem with saving, and we're saving on natural resources. And with the measure, because we have Sardex in Italy, is optimum clearing system, but what is the unit of measure? That's all money. And you let to official money, saving, pension fund, and things like this. And so I agree that we have to discuss the store of value function, but we have to think how we can solve the saving problem, because we need not to consume everything, but to keep something about natural resources. How we can solve this, I don't know, but it is a problem. It probably is a problem linked to the system of measure.
But I more.
Furiaikipu solve this problem. Sorry.
Okay.
So Furiaikipu, you save, you save work, you keep for the future.
Yeah.
But there is no, because you don't pay anything. It's not money. You don't pay something.
And it's marginal. It's easy.
Yeah.
Bro.
Saving?
No, Furiakipo.
Sorry?
Furiaikipu is marginal.
Was marginal and doesn't exist anymore. So
That's a
we
currency.
are very cruel to new species. Evolution, cultural evolution is a mess.
Okay.
It's not being registered. That's why
Okay.
it's a mess.
By the way, I will be grateful to any feedback you provide to this mail address. So, yeah.
Sure.
I would appreciate any feedback.
917, if you can.
Yes, KFC.
Well, one request. This looks as a very elaborated thing. Can you give us, write down a place where we can read the full document? Because it looks.
I don't know whether it will be published in the
No,
EIC.
No, but you have.
2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. It will take 2 years to have
No.
the publication.
No, but you said you published that in the journal.
Yeah.
could you give the number and
Well,
so on?
it's 2016 summer issue of.
And then number,
Okay.
because it looks as a quite elaborated proposal. Then,
So International Journal of Community Currency Research,
Yeah.
summer 2016 issue.
Okay.
Then you will find the basic document. And now I prepared another document where I explained all this in more detail. And I don't know when it will be published, so whoever is interested for this paper, please write me. But I don't know what are the conditions of this
The
symposium.
condition is that, as barter, you can exchange whatever you want
Okay.
from people,
Okay, so
peer to peer.
Okay.
write me an email, I will be glad
then
to
the second question, now,
Not for business. Yeah.
now the question. You said you submit forecasting, and my question was to whom? Yeah, but I could, and I was wondering, why not to your own industry association? Because I give you why. Because the forecasting is not totally different depending on the branch. For example, if you look at agriculture producers, typically, and I give you an example from Colombia, the Coffee Farmers Association, they work exactly as you said, in paper, not anything, but they submit the forecast to their own Coffee Farmers Association, they accept it, and they extend bonds as many promises as they have. While other industries, for example, car industry, has a different problematic because they may change the forecast. There is a process, it's a more complicated mechanics because in the middle of the year, they may say, oh, the market, so we change the forecast because actually we're planning to produce more cars because we see the demand. So the forecasting exercise, doing the clearing that has to be done at the end, has some mechanics, and that I would like to know if you have elaborated on that. Because the model is, your proposal, listening to you, was everybody is regulated like by a central authority that controls the whole industry. I think your model applies more to industrial branches with the special rules. That is my, because this exercise of forecasting and committing to a production functions differently, quite differently by industry branch.
I agree, but I agree. So, okay, let me reply. So there is a tremendous.
Don't miss your papers.
Okay.
Your papers.
Okay.
Give me that.
I agree. It depends on the industry. In theory or in practice, the bankers are those who can qualify what belongs where. If the bankers are let's say, if that would be a community bank, of course they would have specialists for each industry, so they could. No, the FRB banks, they are different. But community banks could act in that way. So I agree that there must be of course care. Whom do you grant? What do you grant? But in the end, I will tell you something. When in the 2008-2009 recession in the US, the production fell for 8% at most. But the value of the assets fell for 30% and more. So it's much more riskier. It's much more riskier to grant loans based on assets than to grant loans based on work, on the past work. Because if somebody worked for years this way, there's no risk in that. So it's a very lucrative business to be in this. But there is one more thing. I published that. It is about velocity of money and the money mass. Because if we are speaking about the real circulation, this includes everybody, a consumer as well. So how do we make sure that we produce, that we create through this system enough money? And if you read my paper, there is a clear, very simple calculation. How it's basically very simple. Okay, so you're welcome. Okay. We have now lunch, so we have time.
We have time. We have a lunch
If you
break
want
if
some.
you want to